This show is designed to help you grow, because that is what you need. It's what your wife needs, your kids, your church, your neighborhood, your work. Let's build some good things together and overcome the struggles of life with purpose. Now, in order to do that, we've got to be physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. If that's what you're looking for, you're in the right place. My name is Luke Zedwick, and this is the Culture Building Show. All right, welcome. Happy Monday. It's been a long weekend. In fact, it's been a week since I've seen you all, but I wanted to post a new video here and get you guys on the same track. This is episode 6 of the Culture Building Show. I think it might be video number 80 something of how many videos I've made. Those of you who are new, I started three years ago, maybe more now, four years ago, with a school project, a class project as a school administrator, trying to make some parent videos. And I learned a lot in the last several years, and I wanted to share some of that content with you about leadership, about parenting, about teaching, and also about culture and how to get motivated in the deepest place of you. Today, I want to talk about 3 things. I want to talk about pioneer leadership. I want to talk about how to think about and support people who are focused on the negative. And I also want to talk about what real responsibility is and how you're going to teach your kids to be responsible. All right, let's get started. First things first, leadership. Pioneers were a time in America's history when people were leaving cities and whatever was well established at that time, whether it was culture or leadership positions, government, society, and heading out into the great unknown, the dangerous unknown. I think it's time to bring that back, because I think our land, our nation, our communities are headed into a similar unknown, where culture is dying all around us, and we need people who can be pioneers. Now, a lot of times growing up for me, thinking about leadership, I thought about heads of corporations. I thought about government officials, people with titles, people with significance around who they were. That's not what I'm talking about anymore. In fact, I think those people are what have gotten us into this mess. A pioneer leader is someone who wants to lead their family, their business, the people around them. And part of what I've been exploring in my life, and I want to challenge you to do the same, is to diversify every aspect of my life when it comes to not just the people in my life, their perspectives, their backgrounds, their personalities, but also to diversify my income streams, that I'm not beholden to one specific boss who can put his thumb on me in all areas of my life. Because I'll tell you, the pressure is on in our culture for your boss to really put his thumb on you at home, at church, wherever you go, because it's now social pressure as much as it is economic. That's not good. Because what's happening is people are constantly censoring themselves. And I know it because I used to do it. You might not believe it. If you knew me as a principal, I had a habit of saying the things that I really thought, and I still do. But even then, it was a ton of self-censorship. Now, everybody needs to censor themselves in some ways. You can't just say what you're thinking all the time, because a lot of what you're thinking, you don't actually believe. And that's why free speech is so important, because in order to figure out what you believe, you have to talk it through. You might have to say things that you don't believe because maybe you thought you did, or maybe you found out it was in conflict with something else you believed and you had to work that out. But you can't work it out in a community where you're not allowed to say anything that breaks the ever more strict rules. So here's my challenge to you. Be a pioneer, not just in taking risks with what you say, but also taking risks in how you set up your life in a community of people who also want to do that. Find other entrepreneurs, learn what they do. Even if you're not starting a business yet, make a plan to do so. Get diverse income streams. There's 100 ways on the internet that you could start looking at making money in addition to your job. Not just so you can get out of debt. If you're not working to get out of debt, you're way behind. Okay, that's step 1 and we're on step 10. Right now it's time to start saying, who do I have to obey? And will they require me to do something that I don't believe is right? And to the degree they do is where you've got to be able to escape. You've got to be able to provide for your family and your future independent of that. And when you do, what you'll find is that you're more able to speak the truth. You're more able to search for and say the things that need to be said. And we are desperate in our communities for more people like that. Not just, you see this maybe on social media where there's a lot of independently employed or retired people who love to throw out their opinions, but they lose some credibility. Maybe you've met those people. Part of why they lose that credibility is because they don't feel the social pressure that you do, and therefore you push them out because they just don't understand the real world. But maybe the fact is that you don't understand the real world and you've given in to more social pressure than you should. Maybe it's time for you to be a pioneer and go into a new world and build something good. There's going to be risk. There's going to be reward. But there's going to be adventure. You can't have adventure without risk. All right, let's talk about how to deal with people who are what I like to think of as power hungry. And you can substitute power hungry with jealous or other things. But what I've noticed is there's always some people in my life who ascribe the same motive to everybody. Maybe it's a pet mental illness or personality disorder that they've experienced and now they start to see it everywhere. Maybe that's you. You've come to believe that everyone in your life is a narcissist on some level, which is probably true. But here's what I want you to be cautious with about yourself, and then also learn to lead people who, when they see that motive in everyone, it's because the motive is actually in them. When you are purely motivated by greed, as an example, that you always want more, it's never enough. Everything you see, you want. You're jealous of what other people have. If that's you, then when people mistreat you, that motive is what you see in them. And the real negative habit is not that you're seeing greed in other people. The real negative habit is that you're seeing negative intent in other people without really knowing for sure. It's a really toxic way to look at the world. How do you fix it? It's a really deeply personal journey one needs to go on. But what you can do as a leader, as a teacher, as a parent, is you can demonstrate and verbalize how you see people, how you assume the best of people. But that will only come if you are motivated by good things as well. You see, in the same way that someone who's greedy or jealous or hungry for power will see that everyone in their life who doesn't obey them is also greedy or jealous or hungry for power. If you are motivated by good things, by generosity, by trust, by courageous creativity, well, then you'll start to see that in others too. And when you do, you'll bring that out in them in a really amazing way. That's how you build culture. You can do that in your class. You can do that in your home, wherever you are. All right, last thing for the day, I want to talk about responsibility. In particular, real responsibility versus, I call it a kid version. Now, the kid version of responsibility is, if I didn't do it on purpose, then it's not my fault. That's the kid version of responsibility. And here's how it looks in real life. You ask them to do something. They forgot. They say, I forgot, therefore, it's not my fault. What they don't understand, and I had to learn this the hard way, is that being responsible means you don't get to forget. I'll tell you a story. When I was a young man, just out of college, no real career yet, I got a job as a bike mechanic. And I was putting together bicycles out of the box and putting them on the showroom floor. Every bike that I assembled, I would put my initials on it. Well, one day someone came back in from a test ride and the handlebars on the bike that I had assembled had bent forward while they were riding it around. The result was that they could have crashed and become severely injured, because when you fall forward on a bike, your head meets the ground pretty quickly, if it's not your hands and breaking a wrist. And so my boss was not happy, and 22-year-old me used the kid version of responsibility because that's all I knew. I said to him, I didn't do it on purpose. And he said, that's not what responsibility means. And he walked away. And I couldn't stop thinking about it because I thought that's what it did mean, that I had done my best and that was good enough. But if someone gets hurt because of me, it doesn't matter if I did my best. They're still hurt. And if I had been responsible, I would have known that. I would have thought about making sure I did my best, that I didn't forget, and that I actually did all the things I needed to do. Now, how do you teach this to your kids? I mean, besides just saying it, which you have to do, you have to explain it. Don't overdo it, obviously. We all have that tendency to talk too much to our kids, but especially when they're in trouble. But what you also have to do is you have to give real consequences for their responsibility. And one of the things you can use to help you with that is school. Coaches in particular, who expect your kid to, after the routine of school is complete, have remembered to bring their equipment, to go to practice, to do the things they need to do. And when they don't, here's my question to you. Are you rescuing them? Are you bringing their cleats that they forgot? Are you covering for them when they didn't bring that signed permission slip for their absence so that they don't get in trouble? If you are, you're teaching them a kid version of responsibility. You're teaching them that if I forget, someone will cover for me, so it's not actually my fault. Or it's a good excuse. So here's a phrase I keep using with my kids, and it's somewhat related to this. And that is, there are no excuses, there are only obstacles. Our job is to learn how to overcome obstacles. In fact, I was listening to an entrepreneur who was very successful in online commerce in her 20s. And one of the things she said is that the difference between entrepreneurs and everyone else is how well they can overcome obstacles. And I immediately thought about responsibility and courage, because it takes courage to not give up when everything you're trying to do seems to be failing. I've definitely been there. In fact, there are some areas I've been working right now that feel that way. But we don't give up, because there are no excuses. There are only obstacles. Hey, if this show's been helpful to you, if you've learned anything, I want you to consider sharing it, subscribing to the channel for more. My goal is to do this twice a week, and also to find ways in your life to build community. My name is Luke, and this is Culture Builders. I hope it helps.